Okay. So we are live. We're just waiting for the audience to build up. So how have you found things since you've been back, Kevin?
I haven't been away. I think we've. I carried on as normal through the last 8 weeks.
You haven't been away.
Yeah, no. So the thought of actually the thought of working from home wasn't a good one. So yeah, no, it's been good. Quite lucky because I'm sort of based quite close to the office. So we've been able to carry on with a good degree of normality, and there's been a huge amount of opportunities, which is good. So yeah, it's all good.
Fantastic. Hi, Andy Overman. Can you hear us loud and clear, please? Please let us know. So getting quite a few people on here now. So thanks for joining. Andy, that's brilliant. Thanks a lot. Hi, Andrea. Thanks for joining us again from another beautiful day in Perth in Scotland. So we have got a regular lunchtime learner who's always on here. So thanks very much. Thanks. Thanks, Andy, for saying it's all good. Please, can you like it, share it, put it in loads of groups, do that watch party. Tag your friends in, tag your mates in, tag every estate agent and letting agent in the UK. Kevin is going to offer loads and loads of gold to give you quick wins and to get some 2020 money in. Hi, Chris Stevens. Nice to see you. I think you know Chris very well.
No, Chris very well. He's doing his running at the moment. He's doing running and I'm doing the Peloton. So yeah, trying to get fit. Clearly, both of us.
Oh, Kevin, you good?
Hello.
He is doing his running. So let's get the show on the road. Kevin, thanks very much for joining. Thanks very much for joining us today for Lunchtime Learnings. And Kevin is the founder of Land and New Homes Network. He has got the most incredible business that offers incredible value to agents up and down the country, and has got an incredible network. You've been in agency for quite a while. You were at a successful company, Romans, for a number of years, and then you've gone and set up this incredible business. So,
thanks.
Pleasure to have you on. So, first question I've been asked. Okay, estate agents are going back now. What quick wins can they have from Land and New Homes to get some 2020 money in as quickly as possible?
Okay, really good question and dead easy. You've only got to look at the amount of new build listings that are currently for sale on Rightmove. So as at last week, there was something like 46,000 individual property listings for new homes for sale, not under offer. And what you're seeing at the moment is there's a whole lot of house builders that have been neglected, as their instructions have been neglected by certainly a lot of the corporate agents and other agents over the last 8 weeks through sort of heavy furlough. So there's a lot of stock there. So first things first, you've got to get all over that in terms of understanding who the developers are behind it, what their drivers are. I think the big one, which I think a lot of agents take for granted, maybe in their core business, is some of this tech that they've got, whether that's the Matterports or other really sort of, I think agents adapt very quickly to the virtual viewing situation, whereas a lot of developers were massively underprepared for that. So certainly in the last 2 to 3 weeks, we've seen a huge amount of engagement from house builders really trying to get their hands on some of the gear that agents have got. There's been some really good marketing fees that could be generated just even for providing that type of service. So first things first for me has to be about the stock that's for sale. What you're also going to see is a huge amount of development launches coming through over the next 3 to 6 weeks. And that's largely because the last 8-week period that we've been through would have been broadly a lot of the time when developers would have been launching their sites. So obviously because of the pause, they're going to need to get a bit of a wiggle on with that, particularly if they're banking on either trying to get completions in by the end of June, which is still possible, as well as then obviously more importantly then the focus on year-end results, which are going to be for the end of December. So developers need those reservations well in advance, particularly if they're looking at people that got houses to sell and other stuff like that. So yeah, definitely that's where I'd be starting.
Okay, lovely. So plenty of opportunities. Do you think developers now will start looking at, rather than using an agent on the sole agent, do you think there's opportunity to go multi-agency because they're going to want to shift their stock?
I think that you're going to find a lot of agents are going to be disinstructed on the stock that they have had. So when we look at the amount of that, 46,000, we look at how long some of that stock's been listed since it's been listed. Very little changes in number of price reductions or price reductions that may have happened last October, November, without any activity of us or achievement of a sale being achieved up till sort of point of going into lockdown. So I think there's a lot of disgruntled stuff. We're seeing huge amount of I talk about neglected stock. Even before coronavirus, we were seeing stock listed on Rightmove that, frankly, was sort of still photographs from sort of mid-build, where now it's really looking well and sort of good presentation. So I think it's just about nurturing the love and really sort of getting hold of it. And for me, I think what you're going to find, developers that were maybe anti-agent initially, that is really turned, because for them to be able to try and get organic footfall through the door of sufficient numbers to get a rate of sale, it ain't going to happen. So the fact that an agent is so in tune, and particularly have used the last 8 weeks to really get on top of databases and really knowing who the motivated people are right now, certainly what we're hearing in the last 2 weeks, that's what the house builders, that's the gold, that's the nectar that the house builders need to get hold of. So an agent shouldn't undervalue that, in my opinion.
Okay, so best way, obviously, apart from going through you, of getting a developer, is it just going on to LinkedIn, connecting with them, introducing yourself?
Yeah, I think first of all, look, there's a lot of house builders that are out there. I think if you're really serious about growing your land and new home site to your business, you've got to realise that unless you're going to commit to focusing on land, if you're just purely banking on trying to go and get new homes instructions, the best you're going to get is going to be an intro only, or you're going to have something really sort of rocket fire in your offering. So if you're going to do it properly, you do really need to get back to the basics of starting on land. Immediately, the sort of first sense is for going through the planning data. And I'm happy to extend, Stephen, to any one of your viewers that are on this call today. If you want a snapshot on the planning information for your area, please get in touch. As long as we haven't got a member in a location, we're happy to provide that. Just to try and give a shot in the arm to agents.
That's incredibly generous of you. That's really problem. Generous of you. So if I can ask, Owen, thanks very much for joining us. David, thank you, and great work, the results that you got from your video that went out yesterday, so well done to you. So if you want from Kevin, if you could write comment yes, and if you're happy for me to pass on your email address to Kevin, and Kevin will get in touch with you with that, if that's okay with you, Kevin.
Yeah, I think,
and it's subject to you obviously having competing agents in there.
Yeah,
okay.
If anyone,
hi, Shell. Nice to have you on here again.
The other thing, Stephen, just on that as well, as much as the planning data, we have the full analysis on every new home that's listed for sale and sold, and we go back over the last 9 months with this data. So again, if somebody wants to give us their postcode sectors, we'll give you a really quick stab in the dark of what, or not even stab in the dark, the actual state of play of what stock there is. So, one classic example, a couple of weeks ago, we found a site that was 5 million quid worth of stock. It'd been on the market with an agent since back in the last summer. And we've just picked that instruction up for an agent locally to hear off the back of that data. So more than happy to share that.
That's brilliant. That's really, really generous of you. So if you're interested in that data, please put yes, and maybe send me a message with your postcode so I can pass it on to Kevin as well. That'd be fantastic. And please carry on liking it, sharing it, getting it out there. Thank you. Okay, so planning's a great idea. So really it's land. So how can people be spotting the land opportunities?
Okay, so in simple terms, there's obviously some really clever tech out there. Again, if anyone wants to touch base, I might be able to try and get you a free trial on a really great bit of kit. It's not our kit, but it's a provider, a strategic partner we work with. I think in the first instance, Stephen, let's start at the basics really. And let's look at the listings that an agent goes out to see or are valued or whatever, and let's relook at it. So let's look at it on the basis of, maybe it's a bungalow and the bungalow's next door to two or three story houses. Is it on a large plot? I always say the analogy, you've got to look left, look right, look behind you, look forward, and try and sort of think, okay, I've got a small piece of land here, but actually, can we make this a much bigger deal? So again, the thing I'd probably say to your clients and viewers, if you've got a site and you're not sure whether you think it's got some development potential, just run it by us. We've got a second side to our business, which is under Thomas Bay Land and Planning. And we do a lot of referral work from agents who maybe can't commit to being a fully fledged sort of Land in Your Homes Network member. So we do sort of package up, trying to help them with some of the land deals. But the best analogy I can give is one down in South London. It was a lister that took a house on the market. It was a sort of pretty knackered bungalow, typical, neg in an office. Took it on 1% fee, so at 300 grand, it was a £3,000 fee. That would have been the end of it. But we quickly identified that it had some development potential. So we wrestled the instruction back from the local branch, got it out to some developers. In developer world, if you're controlling land, the fees are always 2%. And that's really important to remember that. So do not squander a land opportunity when you go to place it just to be a crowd pleaser. It's the only time in a developer relationship you'll ever have any currency to trade with. But for this particular example, we changed it to a 2% fee at 350 grand, so it was £7,000 versus £3,000. We then had an offer on it once it got planning at 800 grand for the developer to flip it on. He chose not to, which was a bit of a shame because that'd have been another 16 grand for us. But the upshot was then the 6 flats that got built on the site, the total fee value was 47 grand. And that's from a pretty manky bungalow that a neg would have given that away at £3,000. So I think that every agent, without exception, has got stuff that's right under their nose. And hence, again, when you start looking at the planning data, you'll very quickly realise that the stuff you've driven by, and next thing there's a sort of a block of flats for 24 units, whatever on. So I think it's a look left, look right, and look at heights and look at usages that are in sort of that neighbouring area, really.
So now's most probably a good opportunity, actually, whilst companies are going back, to review actually their whole portfolio of properties and to see whether there are opportunities in there. That's going to be a quick win, surely.
Yeah, I think
I love what you just said there.
Yeah, I think what you've got is.
Sorry, Kevin.
Sorry, no, I think, and this might get too technical, so if it does for anyone, I apologise, but I'm more than happy to cover this off on a separate one-to-one Zoom call if anyone wants to. Let's take Andy Overman's area in Thetford, okay? And Thetford as a development settlement boundary will have its sort of whole general sort of consent or general sort of build up of residential development. And Thetford will be under pressure, like any other local authority, to deliver its fair share of new build housing. Now, you can either generate new homes or land opportunities from what's in the settlement boundary. So that's recycling an old care home, it's recycling an old petrol station, it's maybe assembling back gardens. So Andy might have a semi-detached house on the market with a 150-foot back garden. Maybe there's no access to it, but actually in association with them 4 or 5 other gardens, and then there's a break in a gap in the semis to get an access way in, we start sort of creating developments. Where it gets really interesting is what's the vision that Andy or anyone else for this matter have got around what's going to be where the next big sites are in Thetford, not just this year, but in 5 years and in 10 years' time. So the quickest place anyone needs to start is looking at your local plan. And the local plan, which is publicly available document, you Google it, you'll get it for your local area. And all the maps are on there. So if they can't make it any easier for you, all the local plan maps are there. And that will highlight in the current local plan process where land is allocated for housing. Just because it's allocated doesn't mean to say there's already a developer on it. So as Andy, as I know him, sort of so well in tune with his local marketplace, knows loads of people, if he started really sort of skinning through that data, I reckon I'm going to take a pretty good guess that he'll know a lot of those vendors And some of those vendors won't even know their land's allocated. It's there's this massive myth or assumption of what it is. But what you've also got to then do is say, right, okay, we've got a local plan for this area today, but what about the land then on the fringes of Thetford or any other town for the next 5 years or the next 10 years? Because the work you do now is going to give you one hell of a pipeline and probably most valuable filing cabinet in 5 or 10 years' time. And I don't know if he's on this call, but somebody not a million miles from one of the people that are on this call have done a deal with us, and it's a 90-acre site, and we've sold it to a land promoter. Now that planning's not going to come through this year or next year, but it will be through within 5 years. That agent has just added over £1 million worth of fees to their business just on that one deal. But that's work today. That's bread today.
That's a point. Yeah, 100%. And actually, it's going back to this lifetime value. So if you turn up for a market appraisal, and I come down to Marlborough, and I think, right, I'm going to see this property. If I get it on, potentially it's a £5,000 fee, fantastic short term. But actually, if I give you the most incredible customer experience, you become a raving fan. You absolutely love me. I know you've got some kids, you've got friends, family, and colleagues. Hopefully, you're going to recommend me to all those people. That £5,000 fee may have a lifetime value of 70,000. Just like you've demonstrated, we're talking a lot bigger numbers with land and development. That £1 million of income coming in, maybe in 5 or 6 years, it's going to make a massive, massive difference to that agency and that business. And that's why it's very important to, I know we were discussing the easy wins at the moment to begin with, but you've also got to have this long-term strategy as well.
Yeah, I think that, well, look, back to the early win, if you'd have taken that principle of that bungalow I mentioned in South London, the early win for the agent would have been a £3,000 fee. That would have been the simplest thing he could have done. Well, actually, in reality, the £7,500 fee was only paid 2 months later. So £7,500 versus 3, plus then we've got control on resales for 40 odd grand's worth of, new build, new homes instructions. We've then got stock that's going to, those apartments are going to appeal to downsizers. So those downsizers have a house to sell locally. So you got that, let alone if we'd have sold them to a tenant. So, Stephen, from my background of where I was before, Raymond's, a big part of our business was, how we grew the lettings business. And the lettings business, really simply, apart from acquisition, the cheapest way to grow it was off the back of our new homes department, because we had a block of flats down in Basingstoke. And I think of the first phase with Berkeley Homes, I think it was 74 flats in phase 1. We sold 68 of them to buy-to-let investors. We had all the mortgage business, we had all the conveyance business. But the most important bit about it was we had all the management business. Well, when you profile the rental value business, one, in terms of an exit value, two, what the recurring revenue is, actually that lettings business was worth 3 times more than the one fee we had for selling the new build unit. So you've got to look at this over a much longer game plan. And that's a little bit my fear with a lot of agents who, certainly when it comes to land and new homes, they either think it's a dark art or it just becomes, it's not immediate enough. And actually the immediateness is that these things can happen. I've just come off a call an hour ago, and we've done we've mustered in on a land deal, and that's a £220,000 land fee. Now that might seem for some people on here completely, that might just sound, oh, Kevin, you're talking nonsense. That's like a lottery. That is simply a guy working in our office. He's ex-Foxtons, paid 25 grand a year or whatever it is. He's made a call, he's opened the door, and we've smuggled in and we've done a deal. 220 grand.
No. We've got old Steve Tolfrey here on the phone saying the best industry insights. Yeah, so thanks, Steve. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for coming on today. I don't believe this. I think all the Arsenal fans are infiltrating us today.
Oh God!
But mind you, you got a fellow Chelsea fan, Piers Johnson, who I think works with Assad.
Great. Cool.
So you're okay. There's there's two of you. What's the best way of setting up a department? You know, should you have somebody who just really focuses on it? You know, is it best to outsource it? You know, I think you've got the most incredible business. You're not paying me to say this.
No.
You know, I think it is exceptional as well. But you know, obviously, there are people out there that you know may not want to outsource it and may want to do it themselves. You know, would you have any suggestions?
I think first and foremost, every agent has to create a new homes culture in their business. Okay, so what does that look like? In short, that looks like just getting all of your staff to be wired into knowing what to look for in terms of a land opportunity. And I've got some material we're just pulling together at the moment. So if you give me a week, we'll again share this with you, Stephen, in terms of you know what does a land deal look like. But that aside, when you're registering a buyer, if you're not asking the question by default every single time, and would you consider buying a new home? What do you think happens when you get mystery shopped by a developer that's coming into your town? Okay, if you don't ask, it ain't going to happen. But likewise, if you've got the stock in your business and that question's not there, then it's going to get missed. And it's going to get missed because the developer's provided you with an oversized brochure. No one's gone to the filing cabinet, or it's not registered in the CRM properly, and it doesn't get mentioned. Therefore, you get disinstructed. So you've got to start with a culture in the first place, which is that you're serious about it and you're not playing at it. The second bit to that is that you've got to be bang on the money of knowing everything that's coming through the system. And the system is simple. The system is the planning data, or is the planning system. So if you're lucky enough that you're just running a 1 or 2 branch firm and you're just purely in one local authority area, you keeping a track week on week of what's going on is not a hard job. But the problem is, and this is where it's all back to consistency, people do these types of jobs when they're not busy with their core day-to-day jobs. And it's a bit like sort of, you know, you're then into this sort of spikiness. And what we've got to try and do is say, this has got to be somebody's role. You need almost like a land and new homes champion in your business, whether that's the administrator or it's the owner of the business or whatever. You have to start there, because if you're sitting feeling woe is me when you see the great big Connells board go up on a site, that site didn't just happen. That deal didn't happen. It happened a year before, 2 years before, maybe even longer. So, and that broadly is because no one else in the town paid that developer enough attention or showed enough interest in the land and new home sector at that point. So it's not too late for anyone that's on this call or any agent to really get hold of this now, because like I said, it's all back. Focus on the quick wins, focus on the things you can control. Don't be worrying about trying to find the next big subject to planning deal. Just get under the skin of everything that's consented in your area, know what's under construction, know what's currently for sale, and know what's sitting there with a ticket that's not been built. And if you know that, and you know that it's not built, dangle that big carrot in front of a vendor that you've got a buyer, or would they sell it? And you'll be really surprised of what comes through. And you know, I've mentioned, you know, James Ladd in our office. You know, since January, he's secured 55 instructions just from getting on the phone. He hasn't physically met a single landowner. He's just got on the phone. He's got on the phone. He's understood what the developer wants to do or the landowner, and we're doing deals. We're presenting opportunity.
And now's a great time to be doing it, and via Zoom. You know, you can have these conversations, and you don't have to go there. You've got these face-to-face meetings that you can have with the people, and I'm sure, as you rightly said, you know, one, they're keen to find land because they want to land build for the future. Two, they've most probably got plenty of properties there that have been sitting there for a while, and that they do need to shift. Some of them may be coming to their year end as well. I mean, I like the fact that you say, I think agency is about keeping it simple. And actually, just by, you know, what you said, you know, would you consider buying a new home? That's a really simple question to ask. And if there is a new developer that's coming in, or a new builder coming into your area, and you're demonstrating by that really simple question that you know about new homes, then they're going to at least consider you. It's going to get you in front of the door. I mean, especially you may have done a hard graft and worked out who they are. You've spoken to them, and they think, "Great, that's fantastic. Now let's see how good they are." And then they call your team, and your team haven't got a clue. Then you've lost them.
Have you? I don't know whether this.
So again, you touched on training.
Yeah, well,
sorry, Kevin.
Sorry, no. Can I just try and just quickly screen share something with you? See whether this will let me do it, Stephen. Is that all right?
Yeah, of course you can.
Right, let's see if it'll work. It might not.
This is going to be a lunchtime learning first.
You reckon?
So we'll see. You've also hi Chris Garfield, so from Leicester. Nice to see you. Apart from the fact you're an Arsenal fan as well. Too many Gooners on this call.
Okay, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do it, so I'll leave that for another time. But I was going to basically just show.
Okay. Oh, you got us all excited there, Kevin.
No, I was trying to. I was
like
hoping
Spurs getting to the Champions League final and not turning up.
No, I was going to just try and show, and I'll have to do this on a separate Zoom call with anyone. Yeah, look, training's really simple. I think we can over imagine this stuff. I think from the agent's role, as far as land is concerned, you don't need to be a planning expert. You don't need to be, sitting there thinking, well, somebody's asked me to put a value on this, acre of land, because frankly, the value of the land is going to depend what you've got a planning consent on it for. And equally, somebody else is going to have another view of value. Well, Persimmon might want to stack them high, sell them cheap, and Berkeley Homes might want to build them really, 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 really good, or to a high standard. So the value for the same product is going to be different. So the key that the agent's got to understand is, look, hunt the opportunity, get the motivation of the vendor that they're happy for you to go and present it, and just go and place the deal as fast as you can to any house builder that's active in your area. And the best thing, again, big thing we focused on the last 4 to 5 weeks is you've got to develop for your area the most robust contact database of every active house builder or developer that is building in your area. And the simple way to do that is look through the planning data, and so I'm happy to share that, get on the phone to them and ask them what are their ongoing land requirements, right? It's really simple. It's not you phoning up, can we sell your houses for you down at Milford Lane or whatever. It's tell me your land requirements. So by you reaching out on the rules of reciprocity, the pretense should be it's going to open up more dialogue. Okay, right. Okay, so you don't want to build anything more in Thetford at the moment. Okay, but you're looking at Ipswich, or you're looking at somewhere else. Well, okay, let me talk to another agent I know in that location, or just make an effort, because when you've got the data, you can engage with it a lot more easier. And again, I sort of see a lot of what some of the guys, and recognise some faces on here who do really good market updates. Don't underestimate that market update you're providing for Mr. and Mrs. Miggins. If you notch that up another 10%, the value of your market research, or your commentary as a market leading agent in your town, that right now is the comfort that a house builder wants to hear. The problem is that your average agent is pretty poor at communicating a succinct dialogue of what is going on rather than historic. So it's great having things like, all the different market reports an agent can buy into, and Dataloft, and I think Dataloft's a great product, but right here, right now, land registry stats they're meaningless to me as a developer. I want to know what's going on right here, right now. I want to know headline figures. I want to know what the state of play is since the Boris bounce, if that had happened still with, I want to know current commentary. I don't want to know about sales from back end of last summer. So I think, an agent's got to be really, can deliver really good thought leadership around that.
Okay. Hi, Simon Monks. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Gary, locally, another Spurs fan. Thank God for that. There's two of us. I think again that's a really simple win. The ongoing land requirements. Just ask the question, and the point you just made, I think. Actually, taking it aside, and I think it will work with new homes as well, getting the message out there. But, what I've been saying to my clients is actually in the press at the moment, the national press are saying prices are dropping by 30%. People of the pipelines crashing as well. People are reducing their offers. Let's take Marlborough. Okay, what's actually happening in Marlborough? Let the people of Marlborough know what's going on. So actually, this morning I had in my mastermind group, we had an agent who's taken on 19 properties in the last 3 days. He's agreed 8 sales in the last 3 days. He hasn't lost any sales. And he's had 84 people register for sales. He's had 22 people register for lettings. Start doing videos to your local area and let them know what's happening there. And likewise, if you start doing that to all the new homes in your area as well, saying actually, we've been dealing with this new home since we've come out of lockdown. There's already been 7 reservation agreements. So and then you are the local person, and if you put it as Marlborough, this is what's happening. It may well be you have some clickbait to say prices drop. National papers say prices drop by 30%. However, in Marlborough, this is what's happening. And then you mentioned the word consistency. So my favourite C word is consistency. And hi, Abigail, thanks for coming on. If you're consistently doing this on a weekly basis and maybe giving them a call to action as well. So, download here your 10 tips to achieve me in price. Download here your 10 tips to, find a good tenant. Download here to get 10 tips to sell your, your showroom ready or whatever it is. That's really going to add value. Show that you're the, the expert in your area. And likewise, I'll be doing that for new homes and developers. It's this fear, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you've got to look at the channels to which where this audience is hanging out. So we touched on LinkedIn earlier on, and I've obviously sort of said, look, an agent needs to build a contact database of the active house builders. That isn't just, by the way, one name in a firm. So our guys here, we focused on the Southwest region over the last 4 weeks, and we're now currently working through 2 other major regions of ours. And so we've actually had physical dialogue contact with 96 individual house building firms that are trading across Devon, Cornwall and Somerset. Off the back of that, I could tell you every single land requirement. I could tell you every single site they've got coming through, and I could tell you where there's a bulk deal opportunity around stock that they've got to shift. But better than that, what I can tell you is, because we've asked the question, we've sought to understand the accurate contact details for every MD, every sales director, and every land director. And if we have those 3 roles covered, we are covered. From an agent's point of view, we've got it nailed. So now we sit on the database of over 360 odd contacts that we've actually had dialogue with from a company point of view in the last 4 weeks. In addition to that, we've got another 46 that are trading in that area. We know they're there, and they'll be on our list. Well, what do you think is going to happen when Andy Overman does his market update? I want to hear that from I want to hear that as a house builder, but I want to hear not just about what the market's doing. If he knows something that he's seen that Bloor Homes have started on, digging the foundations on their great big site for 4,000 units, I want to know about that, because I might then say, do you know what, I'm going to leave Thetford alone for a little bit because there's too much going on. So it's back to this planning data. You've got to recycle this intel that you're owning. And frankly, a good agent should know that anyway. And always something that Dale used to say to us at Raymond's before we ever used to open any other office. It's we squeeze the lemon. We squeeze the lemon for market share. We squeeze it for land. We squeeze it for new homes, and we don't go anywhere else until we've absolutely squeezed the lemon. And it was, simple but great advice, really.
Brilliant. Thank you. So again, just a couple of questions I've had. I think you may well have answered it. So, out of all those people, are there a lot of land requirements? Are people still looking?
Yep.
Is that what you found?
Yeah. Look, construction.
That was easy.
Yeah, the construction industry is it's the lifeblood for the economy. It's why they were so keen to keep keep it rolling. The housing market, a developer can't just sit on land and not do anything. They've got to keep the trades going and keep building. And what you buy, if you buy land at the bottom of the market, you sell the new homes in the top of the market. You buy land at the top of the market and you sell. That's just the facts of life. So unless a developer is sitting on a bucket load of stock, they are absolutely hungry. And I think in the last 3 weeks, we've done something like 28 individual networking calls. So we've had maybe 15 to 20 different agents in a region on a call with an MD or a land director for a house builder, and we're talking about their projects. Now, when you see agents really collaborating in that way, that's where the magic happens, because stuff's going on. But yeah, 100% that's where it's going on. And the other bit I'd just say on that is that a real quick win for any agent on here is tune into the shared ownership market. So if you've been dismissive of the housing association market in the before, you absolutely are missing a trick, because there are big fees to take from them, and it's dead easy, particularly for recycling with your tenant databases.
Okay, brilliant. That's gold. So thank you very much. Are office buildings still able to be converted into residential?
Yep. Yeah, and not just that now. You can also do light industrial units. So light industrial units up to 500 square meters, they can flip over to residential. That's a really simple change of use. You can also do it on certain agricultural buildings. You can do it on some retail. But yeah, office buildings absolutely can still be done.
Brilliant. Well, look, I think you've been a fantastic guest. You shared so much amazing information. So thank you. I mean,
Pleasure.
You've definitely given loads of quick wins for 2020 to get some money in as quickly as possible. Just very quickly, does anybody else have any questions, or we will let Kevin go? And obviously, Kevin's been very, very generous to say that if you want some information, obviously he doesn't have agents in those postcodes, non-competing. If you send me the postcodes and your email address, and I will send it on to Kevin. Please let me know.
Yeah, we'll happy to do that. We've also done like a step-by-step guide on a few of these things as well. So more than happy to share that with you as well, Stephen.
Brilliant. So again, just write in the notes yes, comment yes, and I will get those to you via Kevin. Thank you. Andrea, thanks very much. Great advice yet again. You're welcome. Lisa, Karen, thank you.
Hi, Lisa.
Thanks for joining us. Hey, thank you. So
I'm not allowed to talk to Lisa. I think Ian's on the case for that one.
What have you done?
Good.
Won't say. But again, something that you touched on, and obviously, it's music to my ear, is your database. Obviously that's absolutely huge and massive. And by the sounds of things, people have got so many opportunities already in there, as I know, and as I keep on banging on about. And there's opportunities there for developers as well. And just one final question. Go on, I'll let you answer that, and then I'll go to the final one.
What can I? Yeah, I think no. The only thing I was going to say to you on that is that, and this would be one of the things that'd be interesting around sort of viewing ratio numbers. In terms of how many viewings we're doing versus actually getting a sale. My view is that every buyer we come into contact with is costing us an amount of money, and we have to look at what we're going to get back from that. Now, that win today might not be obvious, but whatever you do, keep that contact. Don't let your standards down in terms of how you kept the contact, because when it comes to developers coming forward and saying, look, can you give us a high hit, a hit session, if you like, around how we're going to get more traffic to the site, that is gold. Okay, and that's whether that's the MA from 3 years ago that just there was never anything right for them to buy there and then. You at least having it is a massive tradable with a house builder who frankly rocks into Thetford again. Sorry, Andy, to keep using Thetford as an example. But if I rock in as a house builder and I've never built there before and I don't bloody know anyone and I'm just banking on sticking my signs up and spending a load of money on marketing, right? Andy's business knows exactly every person that's ever had an MA, knows every house he's taken on the market, every house he's sold, and not just stuff that he's sold on, because ultimately he would have, very rare obviously, but he would have lost some instructions as well. Sorry, I thought, get rid of that.
It's all right.
He would have
just calling you on the other line.
Oh, right. So I just wonder what's going on there. Yeah, you'll have that intel. So that's great news. If I'm a developer rocking into Thetford and I think, God, I've got to shift my houses, I'll do part exchange, I'll do assisted move. I've got, help to buy. And by the way, help to buy will get extended. That's pretty obvious from what's gone on. So there's so many things of deal incentives, if you like, that that's why this database is absolutely crucial.
Okay, lovely. Just one final thing on resales. So, obviously you sell them the land. It's really important that you get the tie in for the resales. And is it easy to get your 2%?
Yeah, that's where you've got to have the right contract. So I sort of get pained when I hear an agent say, yeah, well, we did this land deal, but we didn't charge them a land fee because we're going to get the resales. Okay, what are you getting the resales at then? I've got it 1.25%. Right, you've got to get out of that mindset. We're in a 2% world here. And just play that through. You've got an opportunity and you've got a choice of where you place it. Okay, so you need to make sure it's the only time you're ever going to get the most favorable terms. It's your currency. So you absolutely need to be absolutely strong on the 2% fee on the way in. Do not do it on the back of a fact packet. You need a contract. If that's just a junior land guy telling you what you want to hear, no, I want the MD and I want it in writing. All right, because again, when we sold the Raymond's business, we were selling it with a pipeline order book, which was massive. And the value as far as the private equity are concerned is, right, show us all the contracts. The contracts are robust, they're there. It's like, well, that's like filling this sort of, this cabinet full of instructions for next year. And I always use the analogy, how would you feel as an agent if you could open the doors on the 1st of January next year and know that you had 100 instructions already and you didn't have to go and do an MA? Because that's the world you're in.
Brilliant. What a great way to end. So Kevin Ellis, Land and New Homes, thank you very much. If people want to get hold of you, what's the easiest way, please?
Yeah, follow us on Twitter or drop me an email, kevin@lnhnetwork.co.uk. And look, this isn't a time for a big sales push as far as I'm concerned. We're all in this together as an industry. We want to help people. And I think, at the moment, there's no better motivated seller than a developer. So if you're not tuned into it, you're missing a trick. So and it's not as hard as you think it might be. So I'm happy to give some pointers to kick you along the way.
Fantastic, brilliant, Kevin. Really grateful for your time.
Pleasure.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it, and look forward to catching up with you soon. Thank you.
Cheers. See you.
Cheers. Bye.